Do short theme song intro. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box News Bites. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Bill C10, the "You're free to say what we want" bill, passed in the House. This happened a while ago. But wait, we haven't seen any changes. I'm still free to say the mayor of Toronto, John Tory, has proven he's not a vampire because he feels no need to dislodge the silver spoon from his ass. Maybe this bill wasn't so scary. It takes more than a House vote for a bill to become law. Stop. Take your finger off the mouse clicker. I see what you're about to do. You're about to go to another video. I promise this won't be a dry, boring video explaining the processes of a bill, which should have been properly taught to us in school. It will be a dry humor video explaining the processes of a bill, which will only take a couple sentences, so there's no reason we shouldn't have been taught it in school. The rest of the video, I'll be talking about Bill C10. Now put your finger back on the mouse clicker and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Twitter, a social media platform which could potentially be affected by Bill C10. I'm on there. Please follow me because my self-esteem is now tied to the numbers I see on the screen. Share this video. People seem to care about Bill C10 once they know it's a thing. And if you can, please become a patron. Every little bit helps. Link in the description box below. On June 21st, Bill C10 was voted on in Parliament in the middle of the night and was passed 196 to 112. The Liberals, Bloc Québécois, and the NDP voted for it to pass. This is a bad bill. It will hurt Canadian content creators. I agree there should be regulation online. The corporations have too much power over the lives and the careers of the people who need to use the platforms. The algorithms are geared towards promoting provocative right-wing content while cracking down on leftists for covering the same provocative subjects. And there's a lot of abuse and harassment which needs to be addressed. But this bill is not the way for this to happen. The Bloc Québécois, take off your religious symbol, don't you dare impose your culture on us. What's this? A bill that will impose our culture on others? Sign us up. Shut up, it's my French accent. Get over it. Why do I say this? If Bill C10 were to go through as is, it means the CRTC will determine what Canadian culture is, and you either play into it or your discoverability will become word of mouth only. Part of the Canadian culture our government likes to promote is French Canada. No doubt about it, there are lots of wonderful content creators in Quebec and they contribute to the culture we the people are defining. What this bill will do is give undue favoritism to content creators playing into the kitschy, maple-washed image the government loves to display to the outside world, even if it's content most people in Canada aren't interested in. A lot of that will benefit Quebec. I want Canadian content creators to thrive, and yes, saying this is in my own best interest. There's nothing wrong with dreaming of success, but for the best of the content creators to shine, we need an equal playing field. Everyone should have the same opportunity to put their content out there and let the people decide what they like, instead of the government telling us what patriotic Canadians should like. NDP, I've criticized you a fair bit, and I haven't held back with how I word my disappointment. What makes this vote so perturbing is you voted in favor of it after indicating your apprehension about it. I even gave you credit for that. All of you voted no on the second read. What changed? Look, I criticize you because I want you to win. Notice how all my criticism comes from a place of wanting you to do better? I feel you're the party Canadians want and the party the future needs. If we break down the issues one by one, most people agree with what the NDP is offering. We don't have time to wait. The world is falling apart now. People are suffering now. The Liberals and Conservatives have proven year after year they don't care about the people unless they are wealthy, part of a corporation, and white. Yeah, I said it. So when I see you shoot yourself in the foot, I get frustrated. We need you to be better. We need you to be the party you promised to be, but bolder. And if that means I have to get involved to make that happen, then that's what I'll try to do. The Liberals, they suck. Okay, I'm missing a party in this breakdown. Oh, right. The only party to vote against the bill. The Conservatives. Okay, just give me a moment. I'm not used to this, agreeing with them. I'm sure they voted against it for all the wrong reasons. Whoa, this feels kind of weird, and I suddenly have the urge to settle down, have kids, and go to church. Church. Right. The institution that ran the majority of residential schools and hasn't been held accountable. Kids. I like the right not to have them and to choose what I do with my own body. Settle down? Nah. I'm polyamorous and enjoy my independence and participating in relationships that would cause most of their heads to explode. Okay, I'm back to normal. So, Bill C10 passed in the House. This means it's law, right? Nope. Here's the education part I was warning you about. If talk of parliament processes bore you to the point of pain, please skip ahead. There's a lot of alliteration in this script. Since I'm giving a super simplified version of how this bill passes, if talk of parliament processes thrill you, check out the link below from our Commons. It'll keep you engaged all night long. To become law, a bill must pass 3 readings in the House, pass 3 readings in the Senate, and receive royal assent from the Governor General. The first reading presents what the bill is, names it, and then it's distributed to the MPs. Generally speaking, it will always pass the first reading. The second reading is where the scrutiny happens. It's debated on, but not the fun debates we like to see online where Sam Cedar magically shows up and causes panic and social media chaos. The debates are centered on principles and determining if there's a need for the bill. Weird. After debates, it's sent to the standing committee to be studied and expert witnesses are called for advice. Funny. I don't recall anyone contacting me to give advice on this bill considering it would have a direct effect on what I do. Maybe they had another small content creator speak. No, they didn't. No. They didn't. No. This is where amendments are moved. The amended bill is then voted on as a whole when it is reported back to the House. At this stage, more debates, more amendments, or sometimes it's blocked. After this, unless unanimously agreed otherwise by the House, the third reading happens, often with little debate, and the final vote is taken. All makes sense? Sure, why not? If passed, it goes to the Senate and hit repeat. This is usually a smoother, faster process. The Senate doesn't change the substance of the bill, just tweaks the details. Once the bill is voted to pass, it's sent for royal assent by the Governor General and becomes an act of the Parliament of Canada and is now law. Bill C10 is currently with the Senate. Bills are rarely defeated at this stage. The Senate is called the sober second thought. And while I'm a fan of drastically reducing and restructuring the Senate or potentially getting rid of it, it's situations like this where having the Senate is advantageous. How this bill passed through the House was a disgrace and should alarm everyone. A bill regarding speech regulation had a gag order put on it. Secret amendments were made. Debates were cut short, and for the first time in 20 years, time allocations were imposed on the committee. Definitions and how this bill could be interpreted were left vague. But the Liberals assured us they won't do anything untoward with it because it's not like they never lie about their intentions. And it's not like the Conservatives would never jump at the chance to manipulate this bill to benefit them when they're in power. There was such a rush to pass this through, it was voted on at 1 a.m. That's in the morning, like just after midnight. They voted on it after midnight. A few quick notes to remind you how this bill is a concern for freedom of expression. Section 4.1, I mentioned this in my first video about Bill C10. It was the provision that excluded user-generated content from the scope of the CRTC. It was removed. which means the audio and video content that users post to social media platforms is treated as program, subject to regulation. Things like this video. A memo from the Heritage Minister Stephen Steve confirmed that news sites previously excluded are now within the scope of the legislation, subjecting audio-video news sites to CRTC regulations. News sites being regulated by the government. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, if you look at current broadcast mainstream media owned by the same corporations that own the government, it's not like you'd notice the stories they choose to cover tend to favor political agendas while excluding stories that would go against their narrative. Also, the bill doesn't state economic threshold for what qualifies as programs. As in, how popular does a person have to be, or how much profit would they have to make before their content is determined to be a program? 1,000? 10,000? A million? Without clear criteria, if enacted, all online audio and video services everywhere with some Canadian connection can be regulated under the CRTC. This includes podcast apps, workout video apps, audiobooks, and most importantly, porn sites. Insert your own jokes about Canadian content requirements for porn. The incredible scope of regulatory coverage, all subject to the CRTC, has enormous implications for free speech. The government claims this bill will get money from web giants, but it'll also target podcast apps and niche video services. This will likely cause the service suppliers to pass along the cost to consumers in the form of a CanCon surcharge, which, when combined with our new sales tax on digital services, may cause our rates to skyrocket by 50%. It's also possible, given all the new regulatory costs and the implausibility of meeting CanCon requirements, that many companies may not want to deal with the CRTC and will block the Canadian market altogether. Or they may license their content to existing Canadian providers like Bell, because it's not like Bell doesn't already have a ridiculous monopoly on the market. We'll be charged more to receive less. You know, if you want more money, you could tax the wealthy corporations' fair rates, tax them fairly for what? Tax them! Many of you watching this might be fans of the Majority Report or TYT. With Bill C10, the content they post on YouTube will be protected under YouTube's umbrella. The worst that would happen is their discoverability will go drastically down. But the Majority Report has a podcast app. TYT has a website that broadcasts their content. It's quite possible they'd have to pay fees and meet CanCon requirements in order to continue offering these sites to the Canadian market. How likely is it they would do this? Or is it more likely they would make it so it's not available to us? How many other companies would this be the case? When I push for cross-border solidarity, this is one of the reasons why. What happens here has an effect on them and vice versa. What kind of financial hit or loss of influence will happen to them when they lose a large chunk of their Canadian audience? Canadians tend not to listen to other Canadians about Canadian issues. I should have thought more about that before I started my channel. Oh well. If we could encourage our American friends to push back, we'd have a better chance of stopping bills like this. A vocal critic of the bill, Michael Geist, who is a University of Ottawa law professor and who has never responded for my request for an interview, said during the committee process, "I find it shocking and deeply troubling that the committee is proceeding with clause-by-clause voting on amendments that have not been made public, are not subject to debate, and there are no experts available to answer questions." After the amendments were made public, the Speaker of the House was asked to strike those amendments, arguing the committee exceeded its authority, and the Speaker agreed. Once the bill made it to the Senate, Steve asked them to rush it through. Why? The Senate gets a summer break. Must be nice. Which means, if not passed, it won't be worked on again until September. And if there's an election in the fall, which all signs are pointing to and has quite possibly already been called by the time you see this video, then the bill will die in the Senate. If that happens, for it to come back, it would have to be retabled with the new parliament and go through the legislative process all over again. Wait, let's go back. Their vacation starts in June and ends in September? And the government refuses to give average people forced to work during a pandemic 5 paid sick days? Yeah, that's some entitled privilege BS. Good to know the government is hard at work keeping this country together during economic, housing, pandemic, and climate crises. All of that must be solved for them to go on vacay for so long. Anyway, what was I ranting? Right, the Senate. They weren't all too pleased with this bill. From the Globe and Mail. Heritage Minister asked senators to focus on passing Bill C10. The substance of C10 has raised many important and high-level questions, said Senator Donna Dasko, a member of the Independent Senators Group. The legislation still needs further study. There are many good elements in this bill, she said, citing how many stakeholders in the arts, cultural, and broadcasting community support the legislation. Of course they would, it would benefit them. But there are outstanding issues, Ms. Dasko said. I feel the public confidence is lacking at this point in time, and I see a positive role for us in the chamber to play in this regard. Leo Leo, a senator with the Conservative Party of Canada, who has been a critic of the bill, also spoke about C10, saying although the Broadcasting Act needs to be updated, this legislation misses the mark. We should be using this opportunity to drag a very antiquated framework into the digital age, rather than dragging the digital age backwards to fit an antiquated policy, Mr. Leo said. And there was this lovely comment from Senator David Adam Richards. I don't think this bill needs amendments. It needs a stake through the heart. Despite pressures from the Liberal government, the Senate didn't rush the process and sent the bill to be studied in committee. So, Bill C10 was not voted on in the Senate, and their long summer break has begun. That means we're in the clear, right? Maybe. More from the Globe and Mail. If an election is called this fall, which has been rumored for months, all legislation that has not yet been passed would die, including Bill C10. However, there's still a possibility of the broadcast legislation passing in the next couple months. Senators will discuss the broadcast bill again on Tuesday, their final sitting day. If the Senate approves the bill, it may also allow a committee to study the legislation over the summer. This raises the possibility that committee could finish their work midsummer and the senators could briefly reconvene to pass the bill before the fall. This article was written a while ago, and shortly after, a spokesperson for the Senate stated that no agreement had been reached for summer committee meetings. Things can change. It's unlikely, but remains a possibility. Also, there's a slight chance that Justin Trudeau realizes it would be barbaric to call an election when the fourth wave of COVID is looming. Not to mention, there's no need to call an election. There's been no official loss of confidence in the government, which means Justin is doing this for his own selfish gains. Even if that means Canadians have to suffer the consequences of a prolonged pandemic. Without an election, this bill will be taken up in September and would most likely pass with little to no change. Even though there are a number of senators upset with this bill, many senators will vote in the favor of the party that appointed them to their seat. The illusion the Senate is neutral to political agendas is one of my issues with them. Or if Justin calls an election and it plays out the way he wants, the Liberals stand a good chance of winning a majority, which means this bill or another similar one can be brought to the floor and it'll go through with little resistance, because simply asking members of Parliament to consider the needs of the people hasn't been a winning strategy. Bill C10 gives complete control over to the government to dictate the kind of content we generate. One would think that because I'm Canadian, I focus the majority of my content on Canadian matters, and I even use French words, that I should have no problems being qualified as CanCon. Except, I also criticize the government in every way possible. I've stated that my beliefs either fall in the territory of communists or come pretty damn close, and I challenge the status quo that gives the people in power the privilege and wealth they take for granted. I want a more socialized society and for capitalism to be erased. I don't fall into the box of what the government wants when it comes to the type of relationships I have or the kind of worker I am, and I won't conform to fit their agenda. It's easier on them to force people like me to live in a system of poverty that will eventually kill us. There's no way the CRTC will put the CanCon stamp of approval on me. I'm not the Canadian culture the government wants, so my discoverability and likelihood of being able to grow my channel will become non-existent. And it's not just about me. I use myself as an example, but this is happening to millions in this country. Most careers that pay living wages require you to have money to get the education and connections needed. This is purposeful. It forces people who can't afford it to work at the jobs that pay starvation wages and have abusive practices. Also, the people at the top can make more money. They need us to remain desperate to work the jobs that will keep the economy that benefits them running. And it keeps us so exhausted, we don't fight back. On social media, people like me have a chance to succeed with very little in the way of startup cost, a camera and internet access. This gives me the opportunity to break the cycle of poverty I'm in based on my merits and allow me to live the life I choose. And every time someone like me succeeds, it encourages others to try. So it's not surprising the government now wants to have influence over the type of people allowed to succeed at this. If something like Bill C10 makes it through, thousands of existing content creator jobs will be sacrificed, so the select group of content creators the government approves of can prosper. What can be done to stop this from happening? Get informed, get involved. I really want to not have to make videos on this subject anymore because every time I do, conservatives see the subject and hit subscribe or start to follow me on Twitter. Then they see what I post. Let's just say my numbers fluctuate a lot after C10 videos and tweets, because apparently the name, Left of the Box, doesn't give it away. For more information on Canadian legal policy, follow Michael Geist on Twitter or go to his website linked below. Yeah, I'm plugging him even though he won't give a tiny channel like mine any consideration for an interview. Also, for more information specifically around the issues of Bill C10 and internet regulation, check out Open Media, also linked below. If the government answered to the people, our free-ish speech wouldn't be at risk. If people got out and protested for the important issues the same way people protest over having to wear a mask, we can make real progress. The government won't change unless we demand it of them. Our country, our future, our choice. In this next election, vote on the policy and vote for the change you want. I mentioned it earlier, but repetition is a word. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video. Don't keep the excitement of parliamentary processes all to yourself. If you're on Twitter and don't follow me by now, what gives? I'm funny on there. Sort of. And if you can, please help me out by becoming a Patreon. Every little bit helps me to continue making videos the CRTC would never approve of. And a reminder, once I reach over 1,000 subscribers, I will attempt a live stream of... I'm not sure yet, but I'm sure it'll be entertaining. Get that Canadian content porn out of your head. This isn't the platform for it, and I'd have a hard time keeping serious for that sort of thing. Is that a poutine in your pocket? Or are you just happy to see me? Oh, I'd love to tap your hard maple and taste some of that sweet, sweet sap. I better go get a bucket because that can get kind of messy. Did somebody call for a French maid? Well, I am a Quebec French maid, and I will not clean this mess. You are a slob, you anglophone cochon. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that make me. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Huh? No, probably not working. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.